we have a great definition of vision. Let's go into how. How does one create a vision? You talked a lot about images and what does it look like? And then you talked about architecture and just, all the components of that. So the vision's the blueprint. Where do you go from there?
A great way to start is probably with a metaphor. And some time ago, when my daughter was probably 4 or 5 years old, there was a rainy weekend. We pulled out a puzzle, and we emptied all the pieces of the puzzle, out on the table. And I always ask this in a public forum, but I just ask for those of you listening to kind of reflect. If you were going to do a puzzle and you just dumped out all the pieces onto the table, what's the first thing you do? And when I ask people that question, they usually say, well, you turn all the pieces over so that the color side is up. You take the edges, you find the corners. Those are all parts of the process, and they're all true. It's not the first thing you do. The first thing you do is you look at the box top. So kind of carrying on even with the metaphor of the architecture is, what's the puzzle actually going to be? Is it an ocean scene? Is it a lake scene? Is it a beach scene? So then you can start saying, okay, well, these pieces look like the sky. These pieces look like, if it's a beach scene, the sand, and there's an umbrella. So you start putting the pieces in different places. So the first step is, what's your box top? What's your recruiting firm look like? What are you building? And you want to create images around you actually executing in the role. Because here's the key thing. They've done studies on this. Harvard did a bunch of studies. You can Google this. I believe it was in 2009. The brain does not know the difference between the real and the imagined. If you create vivid images about yourself in a role, earning a certain amount of money, taking certain types of vacations, and you imagine them as seriously and intently, you'll actually create the experience in your own brain. So I would just challenge you to do that as the first step is, get crystal clear, get vivid images around it, define your box top. And here's some questions one should answer for themselves when they're looking 3 years out. One is, 3 years from now, what's your role? What's your role in your business? Is it if you're a solo operator, tell me what your role with your clients is 3 years from now. If your vision is to build a firm with recruiters that are producing and consistent, what is that role? Is it training? Is it mentoring? Are you a player coach? Meaning, do you still want to be on a desk? And if you stay on a desk, what's the role you want to have on the desk? Do you want to be doing the marketing anymore? Do you want people feeding you leads? Do you want to be doing the recruiting anymore? Or do you just want to be managing the deal? What do your clients look like 3 years from now? If you could have it the way you wanted. What clients would you be firing that you currently have that would no longer exist 3 years from now? What does your revenue look like 3 years from now? You want exact numbers, not, about $1 million, about 400,000 as a solo operator. I want to have $1 million. I want to have $1.5 million firm at 40% profits, yielding me this, and this that I can do with my life. Because that brings up the next question. Based on that kind of vision one has for their business, what kind of lifestyle are they going to have? What kind of vacations? Specifically, where are you going? Not we're going to take 2 nice vacations a year. Where is it for you? Is it a lake? Is it an ocean? Is it the Caribbean? Is it Europe? Do you have defined long weekends in your role? And then 3 years from now, what has to be true for you to have all those things that you just wrote and work 25% less? Because I'm telling you, it's possible. We've done this with our clients. What has to be true for you to build that up over the next 1, 2, 3 years while simultaneously decreasing the amount of physical time? Because the challenge most people have when they build a vision is they subconsciously think 2x revenue equals 2x effort, where when it's done the right way, 2x revenue can often be done at 25%, or even if you get conservative, 10% less effort, because it requires less of you. So those are the questions that if you come up with really, really clear answers as if it's already done, I already have these things, and then you align that with where you're currently at, you're going to see a very natural gap. And then you're going to see very natural starting points. And as we go through this video series, as we go through these chapters, we're going to show you how to construct with each one of these a series of things to do to get to certain revenue, to get preferred, to be the preferred partner in with all your clients, and to go from founder dependent to a team run business. So those are the things that one can have if they truly want it with vision. And then, again, I'll close out with, do not get caught up in the how. Start with what you want, and then we're going to show you how the how will show up.
When you're creating this vision, what's the time frame that you should be looking at?
I always challenge people to look as far out as 5 years. Some people have trouble grasping that back into 3 years. Worst case scenario, look out 1 year. So if you go, I can't imagine things 3 years out. But I think what I like about 3 years, by looking 3 years out, it's beyond your reach of being able to execute right now. Meaning, if it's a BHAG, as Jim Collins calls, big, hairy, audacious goal, when it's 3 years out, you give yourself a little bit of forgiveness right now, because you can start, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. You can see it's 3 years out. You've given yourself the cushion of time to implement, and then back it into, okay, if that's going to be true in 3 years, what has to be true 12 months from now? And then as we get into the planning module, what has to be true? Then what are the projects we need to execute on over the next quarter, over the next month, and then how do I peel that down to the week?
Finally, you talked about certain revenue. How does the vision tie in to creating certain revenue?
That's a great question. The way vision ties in with certain revenue is having a revenue goal in the absence of a vision. I find many people quit on themselves, meaning it gets hard, meaning they start doing the things to get money up front and they're rejected. And nothing works 100% of the time. And when one wants to fight for a vision, the beauty of this business, as we'll get into in our Recruiter GPS module, is that financial vision has an exact, specific, and precise amount of activity that you and your team need to generate for the revenue fulfillment. So we're going to layer on, if we want to go from 200,000 as a solo producer to 350 next year, there's an exact and specific amount of activity that has to occur every day. If you want to go from a $500,000 office to a $1.5 million office in 2 years, which can be done relatively easily, there's an exact and specific amount of activity on the client and candidate side, plus your side on the hiring side. And that can all be just like an algebra equation plugged in. We'll get into that in future parts of the series.
Great. So if you were to sum up the 3 big takeaways on vision, what would those be?
Get crystal clear on what you want for yourself without any shoulds. Doing a vision is the time to be incredibly creative. So the way to get clear, so step 2, grab a blank legal pad, coffee, tea, relaxing beverage of your choice, music in the background, and give yourself an hour, 3 one-hour blocks over the course of the next couple of weeks, and start filling in the blanks around all those questions. And then third, once you have filled in the blanks and defined the things as if you already have them, what are the first 3 steps you can do to move you closer to that, whether it's 12 or 36 months from now?
Excellent. Any other parting thoughts?
So stay tuned, as we're going to get into next. We're going to get into Recruiter GPS. So now we're going to show you, just like GPS, here's what you want. So the metaphor I would use is, it's like going from New York to Los Angeles. You want to be in LA, you're in New York. Okay, this is going to show you, once you jump in your recruiting vehicle, which is your business, which turns you have to take, what directions you have to go to take that 3,000-mile journey.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you. We'll see you in the next video.